Welcome to the Accounting Technology Lab, brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor, with your hosts, Randy Johnston and Brian Tankersley.
What I was gonna ask, I guess, is that, Sasha, you've introduced a lot of things, and this whole paradigm shift is really intimidating to a lot of us that have been in this profession for a long time. How do short of taking the ice bucket challenge and just jumping in with both feet, how do you get started down this journey effectively without completely shutting the door on all the stuff you've built?
I mean, I think about this stuff all the time as it comes to like our sales process and our optimization process.
Yeah.
I would say, so if you're listening, like if your listeners are there, and so I guess if we have a bunch of firms that use Puzzle that start taking the last week of the month, you might have more competition on your podcast because people are going to want to figure out what to do with the last week of every month. No, Brian, back to your point. Yeah, I think the natural tendency, for people that are new to AI is they give it a task that is kind of frivolous or not really, helpful. And then they go, oh, that's kind of cute. I think give it something really hard and obscure to see there. Like think about what in your last month of closing process for your clients, what was something complex that just took you a lot of time? Now, is it going to get it right out of the box? Probably not, because most people aren't used to describing their problem in an articulate way with all of the different steps. And I use the analogy of like telling my kids to go clean their room. And I say, go clean the room. And I know what that means. But like, what are the chances that they go and they clean the room to the same level that I thought about? Right. And so when you think about how do you articulate to AI, I have to say, go into your room, scan the room, take your bed, move your sheets and your duvet covered over, put the pillow at the top so it's perpendicular to your bed at the top. Take your clothes, take the shirts, fold up all the shirts, put them in the shirt drawer. Take the underwear, put them in the underwear drawer, socks in the sock drawer. Or I could come in and say, hey, just if I say clean your floor and make your bed, and I open up the closet door and everything comes tumbling out. Well, you said clean the floor, right? So I think a lot of people aren't used to it. So take something that is hard and just put it into AI. Don't use any client information. Just like try something obscure. Take your own personal data. Take something that's low risk, but something hard, and put it in and learn how to really articulate your judgment in a way that is just like you would explain to a brand new super smart person who doesn't know anything about accounting. Try that. That's what I say. Now, in Puzzle, which is not here to meant like a sales purpose, again, because everything is opt out, you can go build agents, and we put a bunch of safety guards in there. So nothing ever changes in your ledger unless you type in YES. Now, of course, you can always undo it and like fix it because like it's still a ledger. Like you can click around, but we make it so that you can just throw all sorts of crazy stuff. You can choose from lots of templates that we build that are generated on skills and do it. Now, if you don't want to use Puzzle, because that's like too much to like, I don't want to switch ledgers and do something, you'll notice that one of the limitations of the industry, because of how things were architected 30 years ago, is the API or the interface between softwares, how they talk to each other, is a CRUD API. You can create, read, update, and delete transactions or journal entries. Now, that is helpful. That's interesting. Let's take out some transactions, let's do something with them, and let's change them. Obviously, accounting is way more complex than just changing a categorization of a transaction or something. But you can take around and you can try individual things. Just take a transaction. You can put just a transaction. You can literally copy and paste it into ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Anthropic and just say, here's a chart of accounts. Just anonymize a chart of accounts. Upload a transaction and say, hey, transaction description came in like this. How would you categorize this? That's a very low risk way, a low touch way to start playing with it. Now, of course, that's frivolous and not that interesting. But like, if you're just like, I've never done this before, copy a transaction description, copy your chart of accounts, paste into an AI, scrub for any personal information about your clients, and just say, hey, what category do you think this should go to? Again, it's the simplest thing. Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that you're going to generate prompts, and a prompt in your mind is really analogous to almost a checklist. and you're going to set up and so that's how you're going to define, this is how you clean your room, or this is how you reconcile a bank statement, and so forth there. Okay. Well, good. I think clarifying these terms, because there are a lot of terms like agents and prompts and things like that. And, when a lot of us enjoyed the Matrix movies, and, when we hear agent, we see Agent Smith, and he's the bad guy. And so it's helpful to have that perspective from you about this, because again, you remember, you're setting it up where nothing happens unless you say, okay. And I think that's the important thing that we have to remember with this, is that you are still the boss.
And Brian, you heard him say earlier, he has the AI pill from Silicon Valley. So I think in our time together that, we've discovered that autonomous means that the books can close themselves and you find the mistakes later. But the alternative is, the person deciding before it posts through these agents. And the profession really doesn't need AI that removes the accountant. It needs AI that makes the accountant better and the ledger able to close itself. So I think that's really nifty because, bottom line is AI can't be accountable by itself. So Sasha, any parting thoughts for our listeners today that you think is really important that we know?
I think that everybody should start exploring and testing with options themselves in the market. You should constantly be evaluating, how do I get better? Because other people are. And if your firm isn't, or you aren't as maybe the leader of your firm, you're going to set the culture change that it is okay to play with this. Again, in the safety way, like don't just shove all of your client information into some random AI tool. Like you said, but like you should play with this. You can play with this. Give some guardrails of like some baby steps that people can. I do fundamentally believe that firms that adopt and start learning are going to be the ones that are going to make way more money than ever before. And we're seeing it in almost every other profession that has adopted AI, from lawyers to engineers, other professional knowledge work. They're making more money and they're delivering a better product to their colleagues, to their companies, to their clients. And it is not too late. This level of automation we've been hearing about in the news, we read about on Twitter, the promise of productivity in accounting, I would argue, I think fairly credibly, it's only really started this year. It's been somewhat novelty. It's been somewhat problematic last year. I would say this year, right now, we're finally starting to see the actual productivity with actual case studies and actual implementation. That is a lesson. It is not too late. Just get started and have fun and enjoy it. If done the right way, it doesn't have to be Agent Smith. It can be Q from James Bond. It can be the helpful technologist that is here to make you the best version of yourself.
Beautiful. So Brian, any other thoughts, questions?
I've been reflecting on this, and it reminds me of a podcast I listened to recently from John Kiriakou. That was a CIA analyst, that he was describing the experience of 9/11 in the CIA offices, and everybody was looking up at the towers in flames. And finally, at the end, somebody at the back yelled, "Will somebody please lead?" Okay. And then action started happening. Okay. And I think that's the challenge to our profession is, you may be comfortable, you may have started like I did in the days when people smoked at their desks and had a 10 key on their desk and a 5/7 14 column paper. But I got to tell you, those people that refuse to change from that world, they're in the distinct minority, and they're struggling to make a living now. Okay. So I think it's a matter of you getting out of your comfort zone and providing the leadership in these uncertain times with these evolving things here. You don't have to buy any particular solution, but you need to get your hands dirty. Okay. Because the problem here is that, if you don't know anything about cars and you walk into a car dealership, they're going to have their way with your bank account. Okay. The thing you've got to do here is you've got to get enough so that you can develop the filter of this works, this doesn't, and you can lead. Okay. And so I would just say, for the love of God, you don't have to do what we tell you to do, but please do something. Okay. That's how I'd say it.
So, Brian, thank you for that. And I was thinking with Sasha's taste, maybe you should have talked about like carbon fiber bikes rather than cars, but I don't know what he's got because we didn't talk about that. However, Sasha, your time is valuable. We
Thank
know
you.
it is. We appreciate you being here as our
Appreciate
guest
you.
today, and we wish you continued and greatest success. So until you are able to join us in another accounting technology lab, Brian, Sasha, and I all wish you a very good day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. We'll be back next Saturday with a new episode of the Technology Lab from CPA Practice Advisor. Have a great week.